This is Nia Perry, founder and CEO of Gradient Global Collective, and you're listening to the Gradient Global Collective podcast. Hey girls, hey, thanks for tuning in. Whether you're listening to this podcast via iTunes, Stitcher for Android, or via my website, gradientglobalcollective.com, I'm very grateful that you're here. Have you ever looked in the mirror and been sadly disappointed by who was staring back at you? Have you ever cried yourself to sleep at night feeling as though the weight of the world was on your shoulders? Were you ever insecure about your weight or physical appearance? Yeah. And if you answered yes to any of these questions, our next guest can most certainly relate. Terri Lomax is founder of mochagirlspitstop.com. As a blogger, speaker, and brand strategist, Terri empowers women who struggle with tech to leverage social media and personal branding to grow their audience and impact. She also manages a flourishing online community of more than 4,000 ambitious women on a mission via the Mocha Girls Pit Stop blog, which is where women of color refuel on motivation and ignite their lives. Gotta love that. Terri's influence reaches over 55,000 social media followers. Her desire to empower women to achieve their goals and overcome low self-esteem was birthed from a place of hurt and pain. Growing up in an abusive household with a physically and verbally abusive mom, Terri developed a deep-seated self-hatred that negatively affected her life. Though she walked around with a smile on her face, how many of us do that? On the inside, she was in turmoil. It took Terri almost 20 years to learn the value of self-love and to realize her worth as a human being, let alone a Black woman. Despite her personal challenges, Terri defied odds by obtaining a bachelor's and master's degree, authoring a book, I'm sure just one, many to come, and was even a former Miss Black America contestant. Welcome to the Gradient Global Collective podcast, Terri.
Thank you so much for having me, Nia. I'm so
Me
excited.
too. Well, audience, I got to give a little background. So, Terri and I have been sort of social media buddies for some time. I
Yes.
reached out to Terri in late 2015. Do you remember why, Terri?
Oh my gosh, Nia, don't do this to me.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Okay, perfect. So I reached out to you in late 2015. It was about how you created your YouTube graphic, right? So I went,
Oh,
yeah. I went and I looked back at the email that I sent you, and I was like
yes.
gushing all over you then. So I was like, this is like full circle,
Oh,
right?
oh
So I
my
asked you how you
gosh.
did it, and then I went later on to then follow you on Periscope and Instagram, and now you're here with me today. So I'm so happy that you are, Terri.
Thank you so much. That is so awesome. I do remember that, Nia. Wow. Time flies.
It doesn't it though? Amazing, right?
Yes.
So
Mm,
Terri, you started blogging in 2012 and note on your website mochagirlspitstop.com that your story is one of triumph over tragedy, right? So how has
yes.
blogging about the challenges that you faced growing up, what we talked about sort of in the bio, that abuse, verbally and physically abuse, how did they
Yes.
help you become the woman that you are today?
Whew, yeah, absolutely, Nia. That's a really good question. And I want to start off by saying the crazy thing is, Nia, I grew up in a household where, we heard often what happens in this house stays in this house. So
Mm,
people see me share my story, and I'm very transparent on the blog. I talk about struggling with suicide, low self
mhm,
esteem, depression, my mom being abusive, and all these other very intimate details from my life.
mhm.
And family members are often surprised, and I get texts and phone calls, and friends are just like, "Oh, you're so open." But you know what? I really didn't realize the power of blogging for me and my journey when I started 5 years ago. I just started off by sharing my story. I wanted to connect with other women, and it was a way for me to heal. So it was very therapeutic and cathartic for me.
Mhm,
But it's also been a great community builder. And
mhm,
I found that I've connected with so many women from around the globe who have some of the same experiences that I've had. And we were able to connect around those narratives. And the cool thing about it is that I've also learned that the most important part of our narratives is that we've overcome. I mean,
Yeah.
we survived those very experiences that we thought would take us out. And
Yeah.
so for me, blogging has enabled me to be a more introspective woman, a more empathetic woman, and
Mhm.
it continues to show me that I'm an overcomer.
Yeah.
Even on those days when it gets rough and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I've accomplished anything. I feel like a failure. I feel like
Mhm.
many of us have those days no
Yeah.
matter what you
Of
accomplish.
course.
And so looking back, looking back on those posts, it's like a little journal for me, just to look
Yeah.
back over my life and how much I've grown. And so
Yeah.
that is just so amazing to look back on those different experiences to see where I've come from.
Yeah, for sure. Wow.
Hmm.
So you hold a master's degree, and this was like literally like hidden. Like I had to dig this up, okay?
You did your research, girl.
I am resourceful as it gets, child, let me tell you. So you hold a master's degree in conflict analysis and dispute resolution from Salisbury University and a bachelor's degree in business administration from Kutztown University. So, why did you choose these particular fields of study, and what empowered you to achieve academically despite your early difficulties? I'm sure there were so many things that were sort of almost operating against you, right? To
Ooh,
proceed. So tell me about that experience. Like why those degrees and
girl.
then like how did you persevere?
Absolutely. And you are on point, girl. I literally felt like I was like looking around during my journey, when I was in the midst of pursuing my degree, and I was just like, is there something out, like, does someone not want me to make it? Because I
Mm,
swear it felt like every time I turned around, it was something was being thrown in my way. And I've kind of, at this point in life, I kind of laugh. I mean, after I cry, if something really tough
mhm,
happens,
mhm.
I'll cry first and then I'll laugh. And I'm like, you know what? This is going to make for a great story in my book. I'm going to be
Yes.
able to help someone from this adversity. But kind of going back to the question, I am a huge advocate for education.
Okay.
And I believe that we live in a system in a world where academic achievement is extremely important. And so I knew that as a Black woman with all these statistics stacked
Mm,
against me, I
mhm.
knew that education, more specifically a college degree, was my ticket out of poverty and out of
Mm,
the situation that I had come from, a
mhm.
dysfunctional family, not a lot of stability, being a first generation college graduate and all that good
Mhm.
stuff. And so I knew that, even though my most valuable lessons learned were outside of the classroom, I
Mhm.
still knew that those degrees would be valuable in the real world, right? In order to play the game, I want to say, because
Right.
we hear about a lot of people who don't graduate and they become millionaires or business people, but that's not the road that everyone is going to travel. So I knew that I had to get that degree in order to go to the next level. But saying that, my extracurricular activities like reading, attending church, and going to leadership retreats, those complemented my credentials.
Mm,
So for me, education was my ticket out of poverty. So I know I had to succeed by any means necessary, right? So when friends were out partying and clubbing, I was the focused nerd that everyone teased because I knew that I had something a lot bigger to fight for, right? Because
mhm.
my siblings, they didn't have my parents in their lives because my mom was in jail, my dad had passed away, and I knew that I was their role model. So I had to give them something to aspire to be, better than.
Mm.
If they didn't meet the mark that I set, at least be better than me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I knew that that was the ticket for me. And as far as choosing the fields of study that I chose, I always knew that I wanted to be in business. I
Okay.
mean, I was that little kid, as a child, me and my sister, we asked our mom if we could, before the world was crazy, if we could
Mhm.
go around and clean houses in our neighborhood. And so I've
Girl.
always had that entrepreneurial spirit.
Mhm.
I would, at one point in high school, don't judge me, y'all, but I got some candy at a discount. I bought it from like Rite Aid or something.
Mhm.
And I went to school, and I knew that my classmates were going to be hungry because I was always hungry in class. So I would sell my Snickers bars in class
Yeah.
for $1 a piece, and get my little profit there because
Yeah.
I knew about creating my own money. I knew that was something that I wanted to do. And so business, that was just a natural progression for me, like go to school, get a business degree. Now, when it comes to this conflict analysis degree, I actually enrolled into grad school into the MBA program. So my goal
Okay.
was to get my MBA,
Okay.
but I'm not a math person. And I got into the program and I was like, this is not for me. This is
Okay.
just too much.
Yeah.
Like, So I decided to, I kind of had a quarter life crisis. I went to my mentor and she told me about this conflict resolution program. And growing up in a dysfunctional family where, great communicators, that wasn't something that we would identify ourselves as. I figured this would be a great degree for me to use to complement, myself just as a
Mm-hmm.
young woman who wants to, be in a relationship one day and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then also to help other people from my community communicate and resolve conflicts in a peaceful way. So that's kind of came full circle, but I kind of fell into the master's program, didn't really know what I was getting myself into.
Yeah. Did you enjoy that program? Was that
I
something?
did.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I did. And I met my husband in the same
Oh,
program, which is
neat.
great. Yeah, so it
Okay.
worked out very
Yeah,
well.
I know that's right. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So you author, how long have you been married? Just curious.
We've been married. We're coming up on 2 years next month.
Oh, God bless you
Yes.
guys.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Congratulations. That's very
Thank you so much.
exciting.
Very
Yes,
excited.
it
Yes. Oh my
is.
gosh.
My husband and I made 10 years this year.
That's
And
a
oh
congratulations
my
to
gosh,
you.
girl, grace.
Relationship goals.
Yes, grace, grace, child. Prayer, grace.
Yes,
Prayer and
girl.
grace.
I understand. It's work, right? It is work.
It is. But you know what?
But it's
When you're
beautiful.
with someone that supports you and
Yes.
that believes in you, I always say that my husband believes in me more than I do a lot of times, just
Mm-hmm.
because of you're in your own skin, right? So there's so
Yes.
many challenges though. So keep holding on. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So you authored a book, "Break Up with Procrastination:
Mm-hmm.
7 steps to help you follow through with your goals." A workbook guide, a do-it-yourself guide, and for goal setting, right? A workbook style
Yes.
rather. For do-it-yourself guide for goal setting. I just messed that whole thing up,
No,
right?
you got it. You on
Okay.
it.
Essentially, it's a workbook that can give you sort of guidance on goal setting, right? So, what was procrastination something that you struggle with? And, please provide our listeners with, a few ways that they can combat sort of their own procrastination, because that can be very like debilitating almost. Like you just can't get past that.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me.
Absolutely. So procrastination was definitely something I struggled with. I would consider myself back in the day, I was the queen of procrastination. And
Okay.
I think when I look back on my journey, a lot of the procrastination stems from things that happened in my childhood. And as I continue to grow and evolve as a woman, I am just, I know it's common sense, but when you actually see how things that happened in your childhood, those symptoms and those effects can affect you as an adult, it really is mind-boggling. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, growing up in an abusive household where my mom was physically and verbally abusive, it was also a very dysfunctional household. She was back and forth to prison. My dad had to take care of us. We were homeless. There was so much going on. I struggled with, as you can imagine, low self-esteem and depression. And
Mm.
so this affected my
As a child, would
relationships.
you say?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny, I did not realize that until I went back and looked at my journal entries. So I have
Mm.
journal entries from the past 10 years.
Wow.
And so I would look at my journals entries and I was like, oh my God, like I struggled with depression as a teen and I didn't realize it was that deep. I thought it was just something that was new in my adulthood. But yes, I
Mm.
struggled with depression and low self esteem, and it affected my self worth and my self image. And so I think that affected my ability to follow through on things because I was fearful. I was like that person who was afraid of my own shadow. I was
Mm.
so scared and that stemmed from my childhood.
Yeah.
And so I was in grad school at the time and I tell people I had a quarter life crisis because I was kind of at that point where it was like, okay, I did what my advisors told me to do. I went to school, I got a good job, I got good grades, all this stuff, but I still felt empty. And I was like, I want to do something with my life. And so I ended up stumbling upon a life coach online. Now, I was a broke grad school student at the time, but I
Mm-hmm.
found this life coach. She decided that she would sew into me and she would help me gain confidence for free, which was
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And so she was a mentor for me. And working with her allowed me to prove to myself that I can complete something. And so I completed, I finished this book, Break Up with Procrastination, which started off as just an outline with tips that helped me overcome procrastination. And I
Mm.
think for me, one of the biggest tips that I would love to share with the viewers and the listeners is that when you find a why that's
Mm.
bigger than yourself or a why that is greater than the amount of work required to achieve a goal or complete a task, you are likely to succeed. And I'll give you a
Wow.
quick example for that.
Yeah.
I always like to say when your why is greater than the amount of work required to complete whatever task it is, you will succeed. And so for me, I started my blog when I was in grad school, Mocha Girls Pit Stop. Now, the thing about it is I knew myself very well. I knew that I was going to procrastinate. I knew that this blog would never come to fruition if I did not find a big enough why. So what I did was I literally tied my blogging goal to my grade in grad school because I've always valued my grades. That is important to me. So the blog, it wasn't this beautiful movement for women of color initially. It was like, yo, I need to complete this grad school assignment. So I'm going to tie this to this assignment to get this done. And so that was it for me. And your why can change over time. It'll evolve as you evolve as a person. My why has changed because I'm in a different place in life, but figure out what that why is and you should be good.
Yeah, that's great advice, great tip there. So
Absolutely.
you've been blogging for 5 years, you mentioned, and
Yes.
but you just started taking the business side of your platform more seriously about a year ago, which I thought was kind of
Hmm.
interesting. So why did it take you a few years to really structure your brand? Because you had been growing a brand, right? You had an audience,
Yeah.
you really had sort of outreach already. So why did it take you so long to structure your brand as a business?
Yes, Nia, that is a great question. And honestly, I can answer that question in one word for you, and that is fear.
Yeah.
Fear. And I
Mhm.
like to say that fear is an acronym for false expectations appearing real.
Mhm.
Let's say that one more time.
Mhm.
False expectations appearing real. Now, when I tell you, I think that the great thing about my story, I am I consider myself to be very humble. Like I am
Mhm.
definitely not a big-headed person. But the
Mhm.
great thing about my story is that I can definitely say that I've achieved I would say things that I would consider to be great accomplishments, right? For
Mm.
my age, 27, I've achieved these great things. But the cool thing about it is I am that person who is always doubting herself. Like even to this day, I doubt myself. I'm fearful, but I
Yeah.
feel the fear and do it anyway. And so the
Yeah.
great thing about my story is that anyone who's listening, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you've been through, if I can do it, you got this, okay? Like you can do it. I continue to just amaze myself because I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually did this. And I was so afraid. I didn't think I could do it. I had all this negative self-talk. But fear, that was really what stopped me. I was afraid of failing. I had no clue where to begin. I
Mhm.
was nervous. There was
Mhm.
a degree of laziness as well because I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to take so much work to start a business. And I really just ran from it. I did not want to be a business owner because it just seemed like it was so much work.
Yeah.
The thing is, Nia, I tried to run from it, but it continued to just confront me and hit me
Mhm.
head on. And I would get
Mhm.
emails from people, like hundreds of emails over the past few years with
Mm.
people asking, like, can you teach me how to blog? Can you teach me how to do this? And so
Mhm.
I knew that there was a need for me to be in business to teach others how to do this. And it was literally a matter of valuing myself enough to invest in myself. And once I got a
Mm.
business coach, yes, right?
Mhm. That's good.
Valuing myself enough to invest in myself. And what I've also learned, Nia, is that we have to stop expecting other people to invest in us before we invest in ourselves. So I
Ooh, say
see,
it again, girl.
girl, I
Mhm.
see people on social media, and I get it because I was at that point too, where it's like, oh, can you help me get to this goal in my business? Help me, send me some money. I gotta go fund me, do this, do that. But it's like, if you are not going to invest in yourself,
Mhm.
can we just be real? Why is someone else gonna want to invest in you? It doesn't
Exactly.
make any sense.
Exactly. You know what? I went to
Yes.
a Black Enterprise Entrepreneur Summit recently.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and that is actually something that came up, right? So the one of
Mm-hmm.
the editors of the publication, he was kind of going through tips on how to pitch, right, and how to
Mm-hmm.
successfully pitch, and he said one of the things to think about is to look at if would you invest in yourself if you're sitting across from an investor
Mm-hmm.
and you present your same idea, concept, app,
Yes.
whatever you have to yourself, would you take $10,000 out of your own savings, out of your child's college education to invest in yourself? Are
Mm-hmm.
you tight? Is your stuff together? Are you prepared? You know what I mean? So that's the
Exactly.
same exact concept of what you're saying here. Valuing, you have to value yourself to invest in yourself and do the work with it. I mean, so
Exactly.
what do you feel like you gained from structuring the business so far? What would you
Oh
say?
my goodness. Well, I would definitely say that, I mean, I've grown my income for
Okay.
sure. I
Okay.
mean, I've made more money in the past, I want to say year and a half than I
Mhm.
have in the 4 years prior to blogging. Like I was literally so afraid that I was cutting myself off from creating the lifestyle that I desired. And I
Yeah.
learned that when we show up for ourselves in private, like I showed up, Nia. I'm talking about, I'm getting like a little teary eyed and we be just thinking about it because
Yeah.
I showed up for myself when no one else was there. I mean, when it was just
Mm.
me, and me reading my
Yeah.
blog, like I showed up for myself and produced content that I thought was amazing, content where I poured my heart out. I had to show up for myself in private in order to succeed in public. And going
Ooh.
back to the investment, right?
You got some
Show
good
up for
stuff going
yourself
here,
in
Terry.
private. Yes, girl. Show
Yes,
up for
yes.
yourself in private so you can
Yeah.
succeed in public. And then also going back to the investment, when you, like you said, if you're willing to invest in yourself, other people will then, they'll catch on later, right? And they'll call you an overnight success and all that. But I mean, I've been on this journey for 5 years. I have people who are just reading blog posts that I posted like 4 years ago, like, oh, this is
Right.
so awesome. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, girl, thank you. But girl, that's old. But
Yes,
still, it's
yes.
still, people are just finding it. And people, I have friends who are hitting me up now
Yeah.
at the 5 year mark, like, oh, I just read your blog and it's so great. It's like, be consistent and show up for yourself and invest in yourself. I invested thousands of dollars in myself before I made my first dollar blogging. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had to use my credit cards. Okay, I had to get creative. I used my credit cards. Stopped getting my nails done. I stopped trying to
Yes.
look super fly and like did my nails on my own and tried to
Yes.
cut corners and save money as much as possible. Sometimes
Yeah.
we say, oh, I don't have the money for this. I don't have the money for that. But when you do an audit and you look at what you're spending your money on, boo, oftentimes we can sacrifice, right? We can sacrifice that Starbucks
Mm-hmm.
morning coffee, that lunch,
Mm-hmm.
we can sacrifice those little things and reevaluate that money and where it goes and invest in our business and
Yeah.
achieve the results. So
Yeah.
as far as going back to the question you asked, I have realized that my income has grown, my
Mm-hmm.
confidence has grown. I've
Mm.
learned that once you learn to just take that baby step, just that little baby step, you don't have to look at the big goal because I get
Yeah.
overwhelmed easily. Take
Mm-hmm.
that little baby step, and whether you succeed or fail, just don't stop. And
Yeah.
once you keep on going, you're going to succeed at some point and you'll have more confidence to go a little bigger and go
Yeah.
a little higher next time.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry. Good
Yes, you're welcome.
stuff.
You're
Thank you. Thank
welcome.
you. So you teach people who desire to blog, right? You're talking about people who had been kind of the desire, the nagging wouldn't stop, right? So you
Yes.
finally put the effort forward, and so you
Mhm.
you started teaching people who desire to blog the ins and outs of how to get it done, right?
Yes.
So what are maybe 3 tips that you wouldn't mind sharing to someone who wants to start a blog?
Yes, absolutely. So it's funny you mentioned that, Nia. I actually just launched my blogging course, right? My
Okay,
first
yeah.
online course, and it's absolutely, it's been a game changer for me. The students are extremely receptive. They are loving the information. And I want to start off with 3 very basic steps for
Good.
anyone who's thinking about starting a blog.
Perfect.
So number 1 is to, very simple, identify your what. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes I feel like we get so wrapped up in, oh, I want to start a blog. I'm going to do XYZ. I'm going to be this big blogger. But it's like, go back to the basics and just simply ask yourself, like, what do I really want? What do I want to
Mm-hmm.
achieve? What does success look like for me? Because if you answer that question and just get that out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
you will identify if this journey is even for you. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know oftentimes, right, we get so caught up in what it looks like and what it looks like on other people that we don't really
Mm-hmm.
think about, okay, what is this going to look like for me?
Right.
How am I going to get to that point? And why do I want it? That's number 2. Why do I even want this?
Mm-hmm.
You may realize, okay, yeah, I want to be I don't know, a lifestyle blogger and I want to generate X amount of income. Okay, that's nice. Now, why do I want what I want? Because once you get
Mm-hmm.
down to the true intention,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll determine, okay, do I really want this for me? Is it something that someone else is pressuring me to do? Sometimes our
Mm-hmm.
family, right?
Mm-hmm.
My
Mm-hmm.
grandfather, he always wanted me to be a doctor and a lawyer. And it was like, I'm not really feeling that. So why would I pursue that journey if it's not what I truly want? So
Mm-hmm.
just getting honest with yourself. What do I want? Why do I truly want this? And once you get those 2 out of the way, I think the next important step is basically just finding a solution to someone's problem.
Mm-hmm.
Once you identify a problem that a certain community or a niche is having,
Mm-hmm.
find a solution for them. Find a
Mm-hmm.
solution and put your own secret sauce or your own swag, I like
Mm-hmm.
to say,
Mm-hmm.
to that solution, and there you go.
Mm-hmm.
a good
Okay, awesome. Those are great tips. So
thank
I
you.
found what I believe is your first post. Now, I don't know if it is, but I thought it was your first post because I kind of dug all the way in the archives, right? And I should have made note
Okay.
of what year that was, right? But so your very first post on mochagirlspitstop.com was entitled, from what I understand, "When's the last time you threw yourself in the deep end?" That's just good in its own
Yes.
on its own footing, okay? So in that post you say this: "What I am encouraging you to do is confidently and expectantly dive into the deep end of unlimited possibilities, or less figuratively speaking, emerge from your comfort zone to become the best you can be." Okay, so in
hmm
that same vein, what have you gained? Well, I sort of asked this already about, kind of emerging from, as a blogger to an official entrepreneur, right? So you were saying that your income has grown, that you
Yes.
have become more confident. How have you become more confident? What would you say in that area?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. And Nia, you are right. This is one of my first posts, and this was from 2012. I just looked it up.
Wow.
July 8th, 2012,
No
right? Almost
way.
5 years ago.
Nice. Almost
So
to the like month,
I
right?
know, yes,
Almost. Wow.
almost.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a quick example about the confidence piece, right?
Okay.
Okay, so back, I'm going to say this was 2012. I had an opportunity to go to this conference for aspiring speakers.
Okay.
And this was a conference where I would learn how to become a better speaker, but also I'd have an opportunity to showcase my speaking talents in front of a group that would critique me and provide constructive feedback.
Mhm.
So I was super psyched about this conference. I was at this point in life where I was like, I want to be a motivational speaker, so
Mhm.
I'm going to go to this conference.
What year was that?
And this was 2012.
Okay, so the same year you launched your
hmm
blog.
The same year I launched my
Okay.
blog.
Mhm.
And so I signed up. I was all scheduled to go. I let them know that I was going to be one of their showcase talents. And literally about a month or so before the engagement, I backed out
Oh
and I
no.
emailed them and I totally just I was so afraid. I was just like, hey, I'm super busy with school right now. I don't think I'll be able to be a speaker, but I would love to attend the conference and just kind of observe, right?
Mm.
Totally just cheating myself out of this opportunity, right? So
Yeah.
I get to the conference. There's this 17-year-old young girl, and I was probably about 22 at the time.
Mhm.
17-year-old young girl, she ends up going up there and she shares her speech. They provide constructive feedback. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could have so done this. And she
Mhm.
inspired me, but I was also disappointed in myself
Yeah.
because I missed out. And I tried to sign up for a speaking slot after, but they were already all maxed out. And so in that moment, at that time, I was so upset with myself. I definitely beat myself up, but I told myself that I promised to never say no to an opportunity that made
Mm.
sense and an
Yeah.
opportunity that would allow me to grow. And so from that
Mm.
experience, I have now just continued to fail forward, right? I say yes when someone reaches out about speaking. At this point, I'm an established speaker, but at the beginning of my journey, I was not. And I wouldn't have gotten to the point that I'm at now if
Mhm.
I would have kept saying no and cheating myself out of those opportunities to grow.
Yeah.
So, does that kind of make sense as far as the confidence level?
Yeah,
Now I'm able to,
sure.
yes,
Of
yes.
course. So how did the
hmm
evolution, I mean, like evolve as a speaker? You said you always had that as a goal for yourself?
Yeah, yeah. I actually started speaking when I was about, I want to say maybe 14,
Oh,
15,
get
when I was
out.
in church. Yeah, I was in
Okay.
church, and my family, they would make me go up there for Youth Sunday. I was like the featured speaker for Youth Sunday,
Yeah.
and that was very nerve-wracking. I was very bad in the beginning. It was
Mhm.
horrible, horrible, horrible.
Mhm.
But I continued to get better. And one of my mentors told me, he said, "You know what the secret is to speaking?" And I was like, "Yeah, you got to develop your message, and you got to write down your key points." And he's like, yeah, that's all great. But the secret to becoming a better speaker is speaking. And so I was like, oh, dag. So you just got to keep putting yourself out there. You
Hmm.
have to fail forward. And I have bombed so many speeches, but
Really?
I'm happy to say, yes, girl, it's been awful. I'm so glad. I don't think they have them on YouTube or have any videos
Right.
of me bombing. But the good thing is, 5 years later, which seems like it flew by, I can now, get a speaking engagement for next week, prepare and, do my meditation and be confident to go
Mm.
on stage and nail it because I've failed forward and I've got to the point where, I'm comfortable enough to do it. So,
Yeah.
yes, just don't give up, continue to fail forward.
That's good. That's good. Good stuff, Terry Lomax. I
Thank you,
like
Nia.
it.
Thank you, girl.
So let's talk about perception.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You are very clearly a beautiful woman, physically, right? And internally
Mm-hmm.
as well. But physically, that's what people
Thank
see,
you.
right? So they go to your
Thank you.
Instagram, they're like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. And so from the outside, people can perceive you and your life as having been a
Mm-hmm.
certain way, right? So if they weren't familiar with Mocha Girls, maybe they, sort of found you via one of your hashtags or something. And,
Mm-hmm.
they just started following, like, oh, she's a pretty girl. What do you want people to know about what lies beneath beauty, as it relates to self-esteem? Like, what do you want people
Mm-hmm.
to know? Because I think this is probably one of my favorite questions for you because I
Mm-hmm.
think it's so impactful and powerful, um, perception, right? And people
Yeah,
don't really understand that that is so not what it is always looks like. So talk to us
exactly.
about that.
Oh, absolutely. Nia, can we get real?
Please
Can
do.
we get real for a
Please,
second? Okay,
please. That's what
cool,
we
cool.
expect on this show, girl.
All
Real.
right, let's do it. So first, I want to say that when I heard this question, I my initial thought was, oh, that's so nice. You're clearly a beautiful woman, you said, and I thought that was very sweet and it's very nice. It's crazy because I did not always feel that way or see myself as a beautiful woman.
Mm,
So hearing that, I'm just like, oh, that's so awesome. Thank you. But I mean, you can look at Instagram and it's just one thing I want to preface this by saying one quote that I saw that really resonated with me online is you cannot compare everyone else's highlight reel to your behind the scenes.
mm-hmm.
And social media, oh my gosh, even I have to take breaks
Mm-hmm.
from social media because it gets so
Mm-hmm.
real, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
constantly bombarded with these beautiful images and people's perfect lives or
Mm-hmm.
perceivingly perfect lives. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And then often,
Exactly.
we compare what's going on in
Exactly.
our lives
Right.
because we know the intricate details of our situation, what's going
Right.
on to someone else's life. So that's something that I definitely try to steer clear of. And I have to fast from social media every once in a while.
Okay.
But I also try to be very transparent. So I talk about struggling with, just little things that I struggle with online. I talk about struggling with depression. Sometimes I may post a picture and feel beautiful that day, but I don't feel beautiful 24/7. I have some breakouts and I talk about that online as well. I just recently had these bags under my eyes that just came out of nowhere. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm. It's
oh my
age,
gosh, how do
girl.
I get
It's age.
girl? I'm like, Lord have mercy, where did this come from? So
Yeah.
thank you for that. I'm trying to look up some remedies on getting rid of
Uh-huh.
that. But
Uh-huh.
there's always something. And I think
Yeah.
that beauty is fleeting. And while it's nice to be
Mm.
young and look good, that's great. That's not going to last forever. And I'm very
Yeah.
aware of that.
Yeah.
Um, so I try to invest in things that prayerfully will last, right? So
Mm.
my mind,
Yeah.
my character, my
Yeah.
integrity, and trying not to get so caught up into looks because
Yeah.
our society, they're so superficial and
Yeah.
trying to one up the next one and look better than the next person. That is just a continuous journey that is going to lead us all into complete failure, right? Because it's not possible. So
Right.
I think investing in the things that matter and just realizing that beauty is fleeting. And there were many a days, when I was younger, people would say, oh, you're so pretty. And that's great. It's nice to hear. But when you don't feel it yourself, it
Mm.
doesn't really do much for you. And there were many a days where I walked around with a smile plastered on my face, but
Mm-hmm.
I felt so ugly and I did not like what I saw in the mirror.
Man.
So I appreciate compliments, I really do, but I realize that, I have to feel good about myself. And so I want to
Yeah.
make sure that at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, when I look in the mirror, I feel beautiful because of who I am and what I offer to the world and not
Right.
just by, how I look or how others perceive me.
Yes. Well, I would say
Mhm.
that your transparency makes you beautiful.
Thank you.
Resilience makes you beautiful,
Mm,
and that will sustain you, and it
thank
will
you.
sustain you physically because you beam from the inside out. So there's that for you, my friend.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So you speak to youth. I know you said education was really important to you. So what do you hope to impart on the young people that you interface with, and what do you believe are maybe a few benefits for entrepreneurs that give back to their community?
Absolutely. Here I go, getting all emotional. I am so thrilled, Nia, that I have the privilege to speak to young people because I truly do believe that the young people of today are our leaders of tomorrow, and I just cannot explain the feeling that I have when I go up on a stage and I see these young people, especially my young black girls, right, who look up to me and see a woman who looks like them sharing a message of hope, right?
Yeah.
Because I know what it's like to be that little black girl who has these statistics. Again, according to statistics, I always open my speeches with this, that, I should have been a drug addict or an alcoholic, a teen mom, a high school dropout. There were so many stats against me, and seeing that there are these young people in the audience who have some of these same statistics stacked against them,
Right.
and knowing that I could be that person that sows a seed that could change their life. That
Yeah.
just makes me crazy in a good way. It just
Yeah.
it is so fulfilling, and I
Yeah.
am just so blessed and so honored to be able to give them a message of hope. And so for me, I just want those little, the young people, especially my young black children, to know that you can do anything, no matter where you come from or what you come from. You can achieve any dream that the creator put inside you. And there's a
Mm.
quote that I love to share, and I'm a quote girl, but that quote is, the creator did not give you a longing to do that which you have no ability to do. So
Yes.
boo,
Yes.
girl, so
Yes.
if
Yes.
that
Yes.
thing, girl, if that belief, if that desire, if that
Yes.
dream is
Yes.
within you,
Yes.
then boo, he will provide the means for you.
Yes.
You just got to go forth. You just have to have faith. You just have to move
Yes.
and move when you don't see a clear path. Just
Yes.
just take action. And
That's
so
good.
that's what I want those young people to know, because I know that speeches and experiences and access to resources that changed my life as a young person. And
Mm-hmm.
so I believe that, especially as a black woman, I have an obligation to give back to my community, especially considering where we are in this world and in this day and age with our current president and the
Mm-hmm.
political climate. And I know for me, I was very distraught when Trump was elected, and it took me a while to really figure out, okay, how can I do something in my community? Like, what can I do? Because I felt so hopeless in a way, and
Yeah.
so helpless, and I felt like my little action steps wouldn't really make an impact on a greater level.
Mm.
But I think that right now the best we can do is make a change locally. So
Yeah.
start impacting our local community. Start impacting the young people that are in our vicinity, our cousins, our nieces, our nephews, the little kids we see in the community. Sow into their lives
Yeah.
and just do those little small things. And I think those small things can definitely make a greater impact. And you never know where the seeds that we sow will go in the future.
Oh, that's so good. That's some good stuff here, Terry. Thank you. It
Thank
reminds
you.
me of our, comedian George Lopez.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've heard his personal story, but George Lopez talks about basically growing up in a house where he wasn't loved, and he grew up
Mm.
with a grandmother that never told him that he loved her, that she loved him, that would never he never experienced like physical touch, as in hugs or anything
Wow.
like that. And so he grew up in a very cold environment.
Mm.
And he said no one ever like empowered him, poured into him, except for one day, one assembly in school.
Mm.
One day, a baseball player came to their like assembly, right, auditorium, and basically talked about you can do it. Just kind of the basic,
Yes.
right? But he said that was the
Yes.
first time in his life that anybody told him that he could do anything. And it
Wow.
was a stranger who never interfaced with him personally, but that one person said, "You can do it." And I mean, I could cry now thinking about that too, because the
Mhm.
power of that, and you don't know whose life is being impacted. So thank you for doing that for people. I cannot believe I've never been emotional in the show, Terry. Look at you.
Oh my goodness.
Never.
It's
Yeah.
so real though, Nia. Like, you just never know what that can do for someone. And I've
Right.
had students, and now you got me on
I
teary eyed,
know.
Nia. I've had students come up and say, like, to myself and colleagues, like, I was gonna, commit suicide this week, or I, wanted to take my life, or,
Wow.
I didn't think I could make it, but just
Wow.
hearing your story. So just sharing our stories, you just never know.
You're
So that's so
right. You're
incredible.
right. You're right. Wow. So what are a few, let's, get it together. Let's get it together. What are a few ways that like solopreneurs or micro brands can monetize their blog? Let's get back to the blogging topic, right? So, how can people monetize their blog? Because I know that's something that people may want to just kind of jump out and start doing off the top. So, what do you suggest there?
Hmm.
And then, do you believe that that should be a driving motivation when you're launching a blog?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me see. Well, first, let me say, I would say that first things first, you definitely want to do your research because
Okay.
there are so many different ways to monetize a blog. I think that once you do your research and you figure out what you're going to be blogging about,
Mm-hmm.
you can figure out what makes sense to you and for your journey.
Okay.
So, if you, like for me personally, I see some people who monetize using advertisements or they do, what is it called? Sponsored posts and things like that, where
Okay.
they,
Uh-huh.
they may partner with a brand.
Uh-huh.
Now,
Have you ever
I
done
could
anything like that?
you know what? I could do it, and I've had
Okay.
people reach out, but at this point in time, it just doesn't really make sense for me, my brand, and it's not something I'm interested in at this moment. But
Sure.
not saying I won't be interested in the future,
Sure.
but I found other ways that just kind of work for me
Okay.
a little better. But that's definitely a way that you can do it. But I think researching first, there are so many resources online, and I want to go back to like the procrastination really quick.
Yeah.
We live in a world where we have so much technology at our disposal. And so
Yes.
there is no excuse. There's no excuse not to pursue your dreams. There's no excuse there's no excuse in general. Like, oh, I'm not going to pursue this goal because of this. There are so many people out there, whether it's a single mom or, young people. I mean, teenagers out there making money online. There's no excuse. We have so many resources and there are so many examples that we can look to. So I would say do your research, use the resources at your disposal to figure out what makes sense for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to go back to this. Find a solution. So let's say you have a target market and you want to serve Black women from the ages of 25 to 35.
Mm-hmm.
If that's your target market, go find those people. I know you have some girlfriends or you have people in your network who fit within that target market. Go talk to them and just do an interview. Ask
Mm-hmm.
if you can interview them for 10 minutes and figure out, okay, what are some pain points in your life? What keeps you up at night? What are some, you know, I don't know, some solutions that or some issues that you've been having in your life or some problems that you're facing. And
Yeah.
once you kind of compile that research, you'll find some trends within that demographic and then find a solution.
Yeah.
Once you find a solution for a problem that others are having, and most likely they're willing to pay money to, solve that problem, then you'll be able to monetize
Mm-hmm.
on your terms.
That's good. Very good. All right. So the courage you exhibit, Terry, in sharing your story is really admirable, right? Everybody can't
Yes.
do that. Like they don't feel comfortable or confident enough
Mhm.
to be able to do that, right? So how can our listeners really begin to take the first step in giving more of themselves to their audience? I think that we sometimes hide behind our brands and
Mhm.
we want it to be a brand and not about us personally, which some people have a fear, some people don't want to make it about themselves, but there's so much value in putting yourself out in front of your brand. So what do you suggest as far as people sort of giving more of themselves to their audience?
Yes, well, I would definitely say start small. I mean,
Okay.
when I first started blogging, I talked about very basic, very basic things because I was not at a point where I was ready to share my story on that level.
Yeah.
But I did start small in my personal life. So I would have, it's funny, I used to sort of hold my little sister and her friends hostage when they would come over for sleepovers, and I would like do a little motivational seminar.
Oh,
So that's
good.
like that's
Yeah.
like super small, right? Super
Yeah.
small right there. But
Yeah.
just look at your life and see what makes sense and look and try to figure out what starting small looks like for you. But I
Yeah.
would start with them and I would tell them stories and try to motivate them, and
Nice.
I would start with my friends and offer them advice and share my stories. And so I think when I began to get more comfortable sharing my stories on a personal level, on those one-on-one or those small intimate group situations,
Uh-huh.
it allowed me to then be able to share it on a broader scale. And there are
Yeah.
certain things that I don't share today.
Yeah.
There are some things I keep private, but
Right.
the things that I am transparent about, I've been doing that for so long now, so it's just kind of natural for me.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, start small and be authentic with yourself. If something doesn't feel right, if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like you're ready to share it, don't feel the pressure to share
That's good.
something really personal. If you don't feel like you want to or it doesn't feel good for you, if it feels icky, maybe you should hold off and wait on that.
Yeah, that's good.
Hmm.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Terry. So now it is time for our rapid fire round of questioning.
Oh, wonderful.
We want to get beyond the business of it all and get to know
Hmm.
a few random facts about you. You ready?
I am ready, girl.
All right, here we go. Give me the first thing that come to your mind, and you have 30 seconds on my imaginary clock. All right, let's do
Okay.
this. Here we
Okay.
go. Would you rather be locked out of your car or locked out of your house, and why?
Locked out of my car because I don't keep anything in my car. I live in San Francisco and we have a lot of
Oh,
break-ins. So,
okay.
yes, the car.
Okay. Nice, nice. Okay, so this one, I promise there is no shade to
Uh-oh.
anyone I'm about to mention. No shade
Oh, snap.
whatsoever. But Terry, you have to choose, you have to live with one of these things forever. You have to live with one of
Okay.
these things forever.
Okay.
Which would you choose? Okay. Would you rather have a tattoo of an ice cream cone on your face, a la Gucci
Ooh,
Mane?
Gucci Mane. That's my
Yeah.
husband's guy. Mm-hmm.
Okay. A permanent eye colored implants per Tamika Tiny Harris,
Okay.
or plastic surgery like Little Kim. One of these things you have to
Oh,
live with forever. What would you do?
oh, we're doing the eyes for sure.
Okay.
Oh, it's for sure. I
There's
can't do
so
the
much
tattoo.
danger there, though. So much
I
danger.
know. But poor little Kim, she was so beautiful. But that's a
Oh,
lot of plastic surgery. I think I'm gonna have to pass on
yeah, I know that's
that
right, girl.
one.
Okay, good, good. No ice cream cone on your face?
No, ma'am.
I promise no shade, y'all. Love you all. Appreciate you all. Thanks, thanks, thanks. Okay,
All fun.
so what anonymous advice would you give to a celebrity or politician? Who would it be and what would you say?
Oh gosh, this is a good one. Okay, let me think. Um, Anonymous advice. Oh my goodness, Nia. I don't know. This is such a good one. Okay, I'm just gonna say this off the cuff. I know Chris Brown is very controversial, but he's
Mm-hmm.
like my childhood, you know,
Do you think?
childhood crush. So I would probably give
Uh-huh.
him advice
Oh,
and just
mhm.
tell him to just get some help, man. Just get
Yeah,
some help. Yeah, get
yeah,
some help, Chris.
yeah. We're rooting for you, Chris. Yeah, I
Yes,
agree.
we are rooting for you for sure.
Okay, so if money were no object, where would
Hmm.
you like to go on vacation?
If money were no object, I would go to several countries in Africa, all of them if I could. But
Okay.
yes, definitely Africa and take like a year vacation and
Mm.
just learn about our amazing history.
Yeah, I love that. Great
Wouldn't that be
answer.
awesome?
Yeah, that would be really, really awesome, actually. Okay, say this three times fast. This one is a
Oh my
doozy.
God.
Okay.
Oh Lord.
Stupid superstition. Go.
Super superstition. Super stupid superstition. Super stupid superstition. Exactly how
Perfect.
it's supposed to sound, right?
Exactly right. That is right. That is right. Well, Terry,
I
you've
love
been
it.
great. How can people connect with you for your blogging course or maybe even purchase your book? And also, what are your social media handles?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nia. It has been a pleasure, and I
Oh,
would love to connect with you listeners. So definitely reach out on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find me at Terry Lomax.
okay.
That is TerriLomax. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to learn more about my blogging courses, you can visit terrylomax.com. And to subscribe to the Mocha Girls Pit Stop blog for my inspirational newsletter, you can visit mochagirlspitstop.com.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, Terry, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to you for spending a bit of your very valuable time with me and the Gradient Global Collective podcast listeners. You truly exemplify the innate brilliance and moxie of Black women entrepreneurs globally, and I am honored to have gotten to know you a little bit more. So, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Nia. You have a great rest of the day.
Okay, you too. Thank you for listening to the Gradient Global Collective podcast. Follow us and talk to us on Instagram at Gradient Global.